In today's episode, we're going to examine the real cost of entrepreneurship. Yes, pursuing your dream is costly, but have you ever really stopped to consider the cost of not pursuing your dream? I'm going to help you, maybe for the first time, face the reality that you cannot avoid. There is also a cost to deferring. I want you to face it head on in this episode, so that you can understand the power you have to choose. No one, not even fear, can take that power away from you. You have the power to choose, act, or defer. All coming up next, right here on Stop Doubting Your Dream. Stay tuned. If you have a deep-rooted dream you long to pursue but feel held back by self-doubt, the possibility of failure, and the relentless demands of everyday life, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Jeff Meyer, and I know that taking the leap of faith to make your dream a reality and overcome the seeds of doubt planted by those who say it's too risky can feel overwhelming and discouraging sometimes, and cause you to question whether or not your dream is worth pursuing at all. But the truth is, it doesn't have to be an either-or choice. It's possible to pursue your dream without risking your stability or security in the process. And each week on the show, I'm going to show you and give you practical action steps you need to turn your dream into a viable source of income so you can live without regret, reshape your future, and create the meaningful change you want to see in the world, all without leaving your day job. So if you're someone who's ready to stop doubting your dream and start living it, let's dive in. Welcome back. Talking with a client the other night in our weekly coaching call for the Dream Accelerator, one of my coaching programs. And this client was telling me the moment when she realized that she had the freedom to choose. Her husband looked at her and said, "Enough. You are so unhappy." And he gave her the release from the grind that she had been on. She said that my husband valued the condition of my heart and soul just as much as he did the contribution I was making to our bank account. It was an easy choice for him and then for her. "Stop deferring," he said to her. "Let's go." It's scary as hell, but watching you slowly die this agonizing death while you continue to grind is way scarier. I was sharing this with our local BNI group, Business Network International group, this week. And a visitor came up to me after our meeting and said, "What you shared is so true." And what's really scary in my story is that I didn't even realize how depressed and stripped of joy I was until I made the choice to quit my day job that I'd been grinding at since 2004 and pursue this venture that wouldn't go away. Dreams are buggers that way. They have energy. Whether we pursue them or not, they may be dormant because of our deference, but like a bulb buried in the ground during the long winter, they are alive. And while they're alive, even while we defer, I want you to think about this. And there's evidence to back up what I'm about to say. Where does that energy go? Where does the energy of the dream that is alive, that we have buried, that we've kicked down the road, that we've deferred on, where does that energy go? It goes somewhere. How does it manifest itself? For me, I think of the number of times when I've deferred over time. It manifests itself in things like anxiety, resentment towards others who are living the dream, bitterness, frustration, regret, personally harmful narratives, lies, being stuck in the narrative that there's nothing I can do, even sloth, because your drive is just sucked from you. So I want to empower you today with this truth. You ready? You get to choose. You get to choose what you're going to do with your dream. When you have a dream, fuzzy or crystal clear really doesn't matter. Although I will say that the clearer the dream is, the greater the cost of deferring. But you get to choose. You can, number one, choose and then act on your choice. But for the Lord's sake, for God's sake, refuse to defer. If you say no to your dream, then own it. Give your rationale, write it out, at least to yourself, the reason why you're not going to pursue this dream. Then have a ceremony to bury it, to let go of it, grieve it, and move on. And then own it. It's okay. But you can also choose to act and to follow your dream. And if your answer is yes instead of no, then own it. Take the next step. Make it a simple step. It doesn't have to be a huge moment. You don't have to, like the friend I was talking about, my client, you don't have to quit. Just take a step, move on it. But please choose and act on your choice. Yes or no. Refuse to defer. Don't say maybe. So here's a caveat. If you cannot say no and cannot begin acting, so you're stuck in the middle and you feel like, I need to defer on this, then would you at least set some parameters? Set some signposts, some conditions where you would choose to act on it. Like talking to someone recently, they decided they're going to wait until they have enough money saved up. Okay, great. Another person talked about having their children out of high school. Great. Another person says, I'm going to wait until I have a new person hired at my current job so they can carry on. I can delegate some of the things for them so I can pursue it. Okay, awesome. Or maybe just 2 months from now, whatever. Set some parameters, some signposts, some conditions where you can choose, where you would choose to act on it. Even that, I would suggest, is not deferring. That's just saying not yet, and you've set some parameters. I liken it to an unresolved issue with your spouse. Like when Amy and I have had some unresolved issues, it doesn't work real well if we just say we'll deal with it later without any parameters or any signposts or conditions. Oh, we'll just deal with it later. Defer. And all it does is fester. Because who's going to bring it up? Usually never gets brought up. It just continues to be an open loop. Why not instead say, we'll revisit this on Friday night. Let's schedule a time to revisit it then. That will give us some time to cool off and consider other options. Do you see the difference between just saying we'll deal with it later and setting some signposts? All right, so that's number one. Choose, and then act on your choice. Number two, what can you do when you feel like you're stuck? The dream is pestering you, but you don't feel like now's the right time. I would suggest consider it as an adventure. Give yourself the grace to pursue at this stage your dream with no guarantees of outcome. Just consider it an experiment, an adventure. Stay curious. Take a next step. See what happens. As I wrap up this episode, I want to share a little piece from my second book, The Dream Primer. The subtitle is Turn Your Low-Def Ideas into a Stunning High-Res Future You Must Pursue. In the last part of the book, which is entitled Final Words, I write some of these words. I just want to share them with you. You can get this book on Amazon, The Dream Primer. You can also go to my website, check out my dream library. It contains both of my books. But I want to share this with you. It's a section entitled Deferring the Dream. It is difficult to listen to your soul. We live in a noisy, confusing world of distractions. I write from a place of empathy. I understand all too well the difficulty of dreaming. Until I received the gift of a sabbatical from my daily work, I couldn't see the true meaning of my calling. My leadership position was not given to me to merely take care of people and dispense spiritual goodies so people could be dependent on me. I had been deferring my true dream and settling for the temporary hit of adrenaline that comes from being acknowledged for meeting people's needs. In the midst of trying to live up to the expectations of others, I was losing myself. Within the daily challenge of fulfilling a role that pleased my circle and satisfied their design for me, I longed for others to see the beauty of their own dream, their own purpose. I ached for them to realize the freedom that was theirs. I wanted to help them shed the expectations of family and friends and live their most authentic life. That unmet longing, combined with the constant battle to honor my true self, left me exhausted. Some have been taught indulging their own desires and aspirations is selfish and violates values such as modesty and humility. And while this may be true sometimes, more often it's not by a long shot. Like you, your dream is meant to live. Dreams can anchor us. They can give us hope and remind us of who we are deep down. Perhaps here at the end, it's helpful to remind you where we began. Dreams withstand time like memories. They endure when we move on and transition. Dreams tell us our true desires because they are inextricably linked to that ever-evolving soul we call ourselves. Acting on your dream at this point could be the most clarifying personal venture you've taken in a while. I'm thinking of the client who listened deeply to the narrative of his high-def dream and with tears streaming down his face said, "This is the most I've felt like me in a very long time." Perhaps pursuing your dream, friends, listeners, those of you who are tuning in today, perhaps pursuing your dream can help you uncover you again. Thanks so much for joining me today for another episode of Stop Doubting Your Dream. If you'd like to connect with me, share an insight that you've gleaned from this episode, or just need a little push to embrace the power you have to choose, man, reach out to me. I would love to hear about your challenges and the opportunity that's in front of you. You can check out the show notes for ways to reach me, of course. If you love the show today, you're listening on Apple, you can download this episode and you can scroll down and leave a review if you haven't done so already. You can also check out my new website, jeffmeyercoaching.com. Next week on the show, I'm going to share with you some very creative and practical ideas you can implement right now to pursue your dream while you are grinding and making a living, so that you can test the waters and not wait till later. Defer. See what I did there? So join me here next week. Until then, the journey towards your dream begins today. Take action with a single step.